And now to talk about former President Duterte's arrest, we have the Hague Academy of International Law alumnus, Atty. Dino Singson De Leon. Sir, magandang umaga and welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning and nice to see you again,
Yes,
Ed.
sir. Sir, let me start with this. Ito, kagabi si Sal Panelo, dating spokesman ni Pangulong Duterte, ang sabi niya, magsasampa sila ng kaso sa Korte Suprema to get the court to order the government to bring back the former president dahil illegal daw yung pagkakapaalis sa kanya at pagkaka-aresto. What do you think? Is that possible at all?
I think it's going to be a moot and academic question, no? As rightly pointed out a while ago by Senator Trillanes. May tinatawag tayo in law na coercive jurisdiction of a court, no, including the Supreme Court. And in this particular instance, once considering that President Duterte will now be turned over in The Hague, that is outside of the coercive jurisdiction of our local courts. That is to say that our local courts cannot order a foreign entity to do its bidding, right?
In layman's terms, wala na magagawa.
Walang magagawa. Fait accompli. No? At paano niya, kahit na-order niya yung Philippine government, even the Philippine government, once it turns over Mr. Duterte to the International Criminal Court, wala na rin siyang jurisdiction yun. Hindi niya na rin control. So the Philippine government can also not do anything the moment that they turn over President Duterte to the Hague.
Understood, sir. Pero ibang bagay yung wala na magagawa versus maaari pa bang magkaroon ng finding, if at all, ang Korte Suprema na mali ang ginawa ninyo? Would that be possible? I mean, if you look at the law and you look at how things happen with the law, would that even be possible?
It's possible. It's arguable. No, my reading is the Philippines was just abiding with its obligation to the Interpol, no, and that is to turn over as soon as possible, as soon as practicable, a fugitive already being searched by an international organization, and the warrant of arrest was coursed through the Interpol, no. I don't believe, as a practicing lawyer, no, that the Rome Statute still applies kasi sinasabi doon sa Rome Statute dapat dalhin muna doon sa korte ng custodial state, but we already withdrew from the International Criminal Court, or from the Rome Statute. So that means that it would be wrong to take a look at the rules of the ICC as if it still applies to us. So what is our obligation therefore? Our obligation is with the Interpol, and yun yung applicable. And based on Interpol rules, the moment that a red notice is released, we should forthwith deliver that particular
that
person.
Word again.
I'm just using that word again.
That word.
Yeah.
But sir, regardless of what the Rome Statute says or what the ICC says, did we follow local laws? Did we follow local procedures? Because in the end, baka naman dun sumabit. I mean, baka naman dun sabihin ng Korte, whether Korte Suprema or an RTC or Court of Appeals, na this was the process specified by law, and did we follow it at all?
Well, alam mo, right now, no, this is in the case of Marcos versus Manglapus. No? Marcos versus Manglapus, if you recall, President Aquino prevented the return of the Marcoses when they wanted to return. And it was called, yung doctrine doon was the residual powers of the President to make sure that there's peace and order, to ensure that public welfare is protected. No? The President has awesome powers, and that is part of his prerogative. And at that point in time, when nakita niya na kailangan immediate transfer, if the transfer will actually happen at all, then that is within the wisdom and prerogative of the President. And at the same time, nothing was stopping the President. You know, the Supreme Court had the chance as well to issue a TRO because they were able to read the petition, no? And until 1103, there was no TRO issued by the Supreme Court. So at that point in time, nothing was preventing the President from abiding with our international obligations under the Interpol.
Nag-aabang nga yung mga abogado ni Pangulong Duterte sa Supreme Court kahit gabi.
Correct.
And we were wondering last night, may tao pa ba sa Supreme Court at the time? And I thought the declaration was i-raffle, which means that it's going to take a bit of time.
Yeah, pero bago kasi i-raffle, pagkasubmit, pwede na kasi mag-issue ang Supreme Court ng TRO. The raffling is another thing. Diba? But they can issue a TRO. You know, this was all over the news. Ang dami na nating analysis. Diba? So, of course, all the justices were aware of this. Diba? And they could have issued a TRO if they wanted to. Right? But at that point in time, wala. So, it was the prerogative of the President as a chief executive to implement our obligations under the Interpol, consistent as well with his residual powers under the case of Marcos versus Manglapus.
So in a way, yung hindi pag-issue ng immediate TRO ng Supreme Court is already in itself a decision.
Well, pwede sila mag-issue pero too late. Fait accompli, di ba? At that point in time, the President has already exercised his prerogative to turn over forthwith.
That word again.
Mr. Duterte.
Obviously, wala na siya dito eh. So, kahit mag-issue ng TRO, there's nothing to restrain anymore.
Nothing to restrain anymore. Pero alam mo, no, nakakatuwa lang isipin na kung mapapansin mo, di ba, grabe yung lahat sila parang kahapon. Where's the due process? Lahat. Grabe yung panaghoy ng due process kahapon. No? Those due process was not accorded to all the victims of the drug war then. So, maybe ang lesson din, kahit na sino pang, politician, leader, no, you shouldn't take the human rights seriously because there will come a time that you will need to invoke this. Ito yung sinasabi natin sa human rights community na human rights are indivisible. You cannot just apply it to one or when it is convenient. No? Whether or not you disagree or agree with that particular person, you respect due process, you respect his human rights. Ang nangyari, di ba? Summarily killing, para silang hindi tao, para silang hindi, di ba, citizen, mamaya nung trinato, makikita mo pinagpapatay na lang, no? Biglang ngayon, all of a sudden, importante pala ang due process.
Well, I do remember the former president in some of his speeches, and even in his SONA, deriding the concept of human rights and even at times threatening human rights defenders. I mean, in his public speeches, and that's also on record. So that also puts him in an awkward situation now. But also at the same time, on the other hand, whether or not certain people respect human rights or disrespect human rights, in the end. I suppose we also want them to have their rights.
Correct.
And in this particular case, which brings us to that question again. In this particular case, was the former president's human rights, were the former president's human rights at all violated in what happened yesterday?
I don't think, sir. There was a valid warrant of arrest. In fact, the service of the warrant of arrest was very professional. Kahit nagmumura na si Kitty Duterte, hindi siya pinatulan. There was no violence whatsoever. Binasahan siya ng Miranda rights, pinadoktor siya. And then afterwards, dinala siya comfortably sa The Hague. And it's not as if he doesn't have any remedies anymore. He still has remedies under international law. And let's all remember, and ito yung medyo false dichotomy na ginagawa kasi ngayon ng yung mga rhetoric na nakikita mo, no? Ang sinasabi nila is this is an affront to our sovereignty. All of a sudden, again, very ironic, di ba? Sovereignty is now important. Pero in the issue of the West Philippine Sea, it was the arbitral ruling was just a piece of paper according again to Mr. Duterte. Pero ang sinasabi kasi nila is hindi raw dapat yung foreigners, yung mga puti ang nag-i-impose sa atin ng justice, no? But I think that is they're hugely mistaken because part of our Constitution, remember Ed, Article 2, Section 2 of the 1987 Constitution, international law is part of the law of the land. We call that in the study of law the doctrine of incorporation. What does that mean? No? It means that this international mechanism is actually our mechanism as a people, as a Filipino people, no? And that means hindi pwedeng sabihin na hindi yan sa atin. Kasama yan. And in fact, the Constitution says so, which is the highest expression of the collective will of the sovereign Filipino people, no? So it is absolutely wrong to say that international law is not part of us or it's being imposed on us. No, it's actually part of the law of the land.
But you're part of the community of nations
Correct.
to begin with. Pero sir, okay, let's move forward. Okay, the former president is supposed to arrive in The Hague, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 hours from now. I suppose, if you run us through the process, pagdating niya doon, mukhang dire-diretso na yun hanggang katapusan ng trial.
Depende, no? The first thing is magkakaroon muna siya ng preliminary appearance. In the preliminary appearance, babasahan siya ng rights niya. And then at the same time, ito yung parang arraignment natin, diba? Babasahin yung charges, babasahan siya ng
Will
rights
he be
niya.
asked if he pleads guilty?
Parang gano'n yung proseso kasi babasahan siya ng rights niya and babasahan siya ng charges. Of course, there's gonna be a plea there. Afterwards, no, magkakaroon muna nung tinatawag nating yung pre-trial determination again, di ba? So actually wala pa tayo sa trial. Meron pang pre-trial determination of whether or not trial should proceed, di ba? So the first one was yung prosecutor pala nag-apply ng warrant and then ang quantum of evidence required is reasonable belief lang, di ba? The second one is substantial evidence na. There's a substantial reason to believe that trial should proceed. So mas mataas na, so mas mababa pa lang yung reasonable, and then substantial evidence na, and then the pretrial chamber will determine if it is proper to proceed with trial. When
Ito yung 60 days. 60 days.
So pagkatapos na mag-determine ng pretrial chamber, tapos sinabi lang, sige, there's substantial evidence to believe, no? Tsaka pala mag-arrange yung judges in an actual trial. But itong hearings na ito, magkakaroon ng reception of evidence doon sa pre-trial pa lang. And then, pwede na magpa-participate na sila, Mr. Duterte doon at kanilang mga abogado at ang mga witnesses. No? So parang ang analogous dito sa atin is yung parang bail hearings, di ba? Meron ng initial hearing, pero hindi pa yun yung main trial. No? Pero meron pa main trial.
Is this going to be public? Can we watch this? Can the public watch this?
Yes, when I was in The Hague, no, I was there when they were reading yung initial decision of the pre-trial chamber that they have jurisdiction on this matter. So I was able to enter. So it is open, but of course, very limited rin yung seats. No? So I would presume that there is a process like what we did there. Pero syempre maraming mga taong gusto manood, including us in the human rights community. We're already looking for flights and the hotels there as early as now. Definitely, because it is our collective responsibility to make sure na everything will go well and that we will be observing properly what's going to happen.
Tsaka this also sets a precedent of sorts for a lot of things. Of course, a former sitting president going to trial, and also
The first Asian.
First Asian, and a former sitting president going to trial after his country left the Rome Statute.
Correct. So ang daming precedent. I think this is also earth-shaking for the ICC itself. It is earth-shaking in the international community, like in the international human rights movement. You know, my classmates in the Hague Academy, pinag-uusapan na yan ngayon as of the moment. Considering na talagang it shows, no? That international law can wield its power and can hold individuals accountable. Usually, ang debate kasi sa international law, is it really law? How do you enforce it? Is it really coercive? It's always a debate, right? Everyone who took international law, that's the first thing that they will ask. Is it really law, right? But in this particular instance, it appears that there's some sort of triumph of international law, putting a despot into the jurisdiction of an international body, so that there's going to be due process and they will check whether he should be held accountable, diba? And he has to submit to the process because he's already been arrested.
And countries usually are very hesitant to go head to head with each other. And now you're looking at international law being applied on certain people. But sir, okay, let's look at timetables. My last question. Looking at timetables, how long is this gonna run?
Well, depends, no? Kasi syempre, depende rin sa number of witnesses, no? Pero hindi siya kasing bagal ng system natin. Kasi continuous trial yan, di ba? Meron devoted prosecutors yan, may devoted lawyers, may devoted judges. Hindi naman kasi ganun karami, ang crimes against humanity, di ba? Ilan lang yung tinatry na yan, and they have sufficient resources and expertise to do that, no? So, our expectation is gonna be a continuous trial. My estimate, but of course, it largely depends, hindi naman ganun karami yung trials pa, is this is going to be over in maybe 1 to 2 years.
Well, yeah, mabilis yan compared to the Philippines.
Compared to the Philippines, definitely. Kaya kaso lang ni Senator Laila de Lima, ilang taon, di ba? 7 years. I was there the entire time, and it was tough, right? And alam yun, wala pa kaming defense evidence in chief there. We were all able to have the cases dismissed only because demure to evidence. Wala talagang kwenta yung kaso, basura talaga, invento talaga siya. Imagine na lang kung magpepresente pa kami ng ebidensya. It could have been longer.
Pero, okay, 1 to 2 years, and then what happens after that?
Well, magkakaroon ng judgment yung ICC, no? And then afterwards, di ba, hatulan si President Duterte, pwede siya mag-appeal, may appeals chamber naman, no? And then after that, it becomes final. Whatever the decision may be. If he gets acquitted, hindi na kailangan mag-appeal, di ba? Kasi bawal naman mag-appeal pagka acquitted ka, no? So, So essentially, after that, kukulong siya.
But is it possible for a decision to be made to dismiss the charges even before it gets to the trial itself?
Yes, even in the pre-trial actually. Okay. So hindi pa, alam mo, ngayon aresto pa siya, but he can say that there is no substantial evidence believe na a crime has been committed. Yung higher quantum of evidence, no? So actually, ang haba pa ng pagdadaanan at ang dami pang remedies ni President Duterte. Di ba kitang-kita natin na binibigyan siya ng oras, ng pagkakataon, ng due process, di ba? Pero nagagawa pa rin na hindi bibigyan ng due process. Pero again, hindi nakita mo ba yung mga comments, 'di ba, nung for example nung uncle ni Kian de los Santos saying na yung pamangkin ko hindi naman binigyan ng day sa court, binaril na lang, 'di ba? Siya bibigyan siya ng napakahaba. Meron siyang battalion of lawyers, I'm sure dahil malalim naman ang kanilang balon, mayaman naman sila, right? And influential and powerful sila. Sometimes no, it's shocking how yung disparity of the treatment of justice, di ba? Yung despot pa yung nakakuha ng due process in this particular instance. Pero ganoon we have to respect due process despite the fact that he never did respect due process with respect to those people who are the victims of the violent drug.
Attorney, pasit lang. One last question. Okay, what kind of evidence are we looking for here for a conviction? Is it also beyond reasonable
Proof
doubt?
beyond reasonable doubt.
And if that is the case, how difficult or how easy is it to prove beyond reasonable doubt kasi in this particular case, you're looking at somebody way up there. Hindi naman siyang kumakalabit ng gatilyo.
Yung crimes against humanity actually, 'di ba? Maraming it's really difficult kasi ang assumption, 'di ba, they're very powerful, they were able to tamper with evidence, very evidence. Kaya nga ang daming hindi rin nako-convict dito sa Pilipinas kasi binura na yung ebidensya, 'di ba? Binila na yung logbook. Iba na. So actually that's the reason why there's a need for transitional justice mechanisms rin, but that's going to be a longer discussion, no? But definitely we have to recover as a nation. We have to help the victims. Walang currently any state mechanism to help the victims. Wala silang compensation, wala silang assistance right now. Sila lang nagko-cope sa sarili ng trauma. Pero going to your question, ultimately, 'di ba, the trial will be there, diba? The trial will be there. The trial will progress, and hopefully, Mr. Duterte will be held accountable.
Okay, Attorney Dino De Leon, sir, maraming salamat for joining us this morning, and the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that was the Hague Academy of International Law alumnus, Attorney Dino Singson De Leon.